Okay, LEC181 Worksheet 3. Going to go through some examples again. So we'll have a look at question 1F, and these are all about simplifying. So there's a bit of fractions here and a bit of work with powers, but we're doing it in a bit more of an algebraic way. So 1F was 3x squared over 21y divided by, brackets, 7x cubed over 3y divided by 3y over x squared. Now, do you remember I said before that if we're dividing by a fraction, that's the same. We can replace that divide sign by a multiplier if we turn this fraction the other way up. So let's do that. So we've got 3x squared over 21y. We'll deal with this divide sign in a minute. 7x cubed over 3y times x squared over 3y. Okay, this makes things a lot easier for us, so let's just go across and do this. So that's going to be 7x cubed times x squared, so that's going to be 7x to the 5th, 3 plus 2. And then we've got 3 times 3 and y times y. Now, I must remember that, we've got to multiply everything. So 3 times 3 is 9, y times y is 9 squared. Okay, so that's what we've got here, 3x squared, 21y divided by this. So now we'll do our same trick again. We'll replace this divide sign by multiply sign by turning this up the other way. 3x squared over 21y multiplied by 9y squared over 7x to the 5th. Okay, bit of a mental arithmetic here for you. 3 times 9 is 27. 27x squared y squared divided by 21 times 7. Now that's 147. So you can think that 7 times 20 is 140, plus 1 times 7 is 7. So it's 147 x to the 5th y. Now we can cancel out some of our terms here. So y squared divided by y. So it's 2 minus 1, if you like. 2 minus 1 is 1. So that just becomes y. Effectively, one of the y squares we've just cancelled out. And then we've got x squared divided by x to the 5th. Our rules again, 2 minus 5 is minus 3. So we could say that's x to the minus 3 or 1 over x squared. So 2 of the x's up here cancel out 2 of the x's down here, leaving us 3. That's the other way to think about it. So then we have 27y over 147 x cubed. Okay, so that was question F. Let's have a look at question 2, where we're about rearranging to make x the subject. And I think we'll have a look at 2h. So this one was t plus a equals the square root of 3b over x minus y. Now, what we want to do is to get rid of this square root. Now, the way to get rid of a square root is to square it. Okay, so and what we do to this side, we have to do to this side. So we square this side, the square root goes away, but we have to square this side as well. So that gives us t plus a squared equals 3b over x minus y. Okay, this makes things a little more easier now. So we want to get the x term by itself. So what we can do is we have to treat the x minus y as a unit for the time being. But if we multiply both sides by x minus y, then that will help us get x to the top half of our fraction. So we can go x minus y times t plus a squared equals 3b. Okay, because we've multiplied this side by x minus y, it means that it cancels out. Okay, and now we can move our t plus a squared. If we divide both sides by that, then we'd just be left with x minus y. So x minus y equals 3b over t plus a squared. And now the only thing that's left for us to do is to get rid of the minus y on this side. So we get rid of minus y by adding y. So this now becomes adding y to both sides. X equals 3 over b plus ta all squared plus y. Okay, so there we go for that one. Let's now have a look at question 3. question 3b. This is where I ask you to play around with some bits of the ideal gas equation. So in the form I've got it here, that's PV equals nRT. So the question asks you about density. And I tell you that density is the amount of stuff per unit volume. So that is amount of stuff, N is moles in this case, divided by volume. That is our term for density. Okay, so now we need to write this to give us in the form which gives us that. Let's start off by writing it out again so we can do it clearly. Okay, we need to divide the N by V. So the easiest way to do that is to move the V over to the other side, in which case we have to divide both sides by V. So this becomes P equals nRT over V. And there is our term that we're after. Okay, so we can think about writing this as N over V times R over T. Okay, that means exactly the same thing. So how do we make N over V the subject? Well, we have to divide both sides by R over T. So this gives us now P over RT equals N over V. And that's the answer I was looking for there. Okay, lastly, let's have a look at question 4, which is the complicated one, which I wanted you to simplify. So this starts off as phi equals b squared VR theta over b squared minus a squared minus b squared V a squared theta over r b squared minus a squared minus a squared u r theta over b squared minus a squared plus a squared u b squared theta all over r b squared minus a squared. Okay, so I'll give you the first hint about how you're going to factorize this is to look for the theta b squared over a squared. Okay, because that appears in all of these fractions. It's super complicated, it looks super complicated because of all the symbols, but we can see that there's a common factor of theta over b squared minus a squared in all of these terms. So we can write this out now. This equals theta b squared minus a squared. And remember, we're taking that out, we're factorizing it. And then all we need to do is then just remove that from all of these terms over here. So the first term now becomes b squared VR minus b squared V a squared over r minus a squared UR plus a squared U b squared over r. Okay, now we can do one last bit of factorizing here. We can see with these two terms, which I'll do in red, they've both got b squared times v in them, and the second terms have both got a squared u. Okay, that's the only thing that's common in them. So what we can do then is factorize these two bits separately. Okay, so now this becomes theta over b squared minus a squared. Now let's take out here, we've got b squared times v multiplied by r minus a squared over r. Okay, and now we've got minus a squared u. So the first term becomes r, and the second term is b squared over r. But now note we've got a plus sign here, so we want to preserve that plus sign, but we're multiplying it by minus a, so therefore minus a squared u. We have to make this a negative. So this then becomes b squared over r. Okay, so take a look at that, make sure you understand it, and what you want to be able to do is multiply these out of the brackets and you should get back up to this original equation which we had, which I know you will.